So this is our campsite, camper set up, and we are right on the lake. We have arrived at the north branch of Kokosing Reservoir in Fredericktown, Ohio. It is a little gray, if you can see this in the background or not, but it will be a good weekend. We have a tradition when we come to this campground. There's a pizza place called the Pizza Dock in Fredericktown, and we always order pizza from there the first night that we're here. They deliver out here, so we're just awaiting its arrival at this point. Life is good. We have wings, we have garlic bread, and we have pizza, and we have the Andy Griffith Show. It's time to eat. Okay, so we're at Kokosing and we're out walking around looking at everything. Up on the hill is the shower house. When you come in, there's the camp office. And that site right there is Site 1. A little bit of the history of Site 1 is for 3 years, 2006, we started up here and we actually ran this campground, and that was our campsite for the 3 years that we was here and ran it. Over here is one of the picnic shelters that we and the Campground Association worked on getting put in up here. And here's the pit toilet. That's always been here. This campground has a lot of history for me because this was started in the late 60s with the Army Corps of Engineers. They built this lake, and the construction company that built the lake, my dad worked for them. So when it was able to be brought up here, I would come up here and I would ride around with him on a road grader in the bottom of the lake at night when they built this lake. And then the other thing that is a lot of history is the campground was put in the 70s, and it was a Army Corps of Engineers campground. And we spent a lot of time camping up here. The whole family did, and we camped in the lower loop. Now this is the upper loop of the campground, and then this road goes to the lower loop of the campground. Okay, so this is the lower loop of the campgrounds right here. And when we used to camp up here in the 70s, we always camped right in this area right here. Now it was interesting back then. We did have campers, but it was really interesting to how the campers operated compared to today's campers. And there is the Traveling Teardrop. Okay, the wind's blowing outside and it's messing my hair up, so I'm going to sit inside and do this part. Back in the 70s when we camped up here in RVs and campers, it was a little different than what you see today. Campers back in the 70s typically was about 17-18 feet, and they had two power sources. They had 110 volt plug-in and they had propane. The hot water tank was propane with a pilot light. The refrigerator ran off of propane, and there actually, for light inside, if you had no electric, there was a gas light that ran off of propane and had a mantle in it like a Coleman lantern. And that basically was how you boondocked back then. The water systems in the old campers was kind of fun. If you was a kid, they wasn't so fun. They had a water tank in the camper like we do today. The only difference was it had a screw-on cap. You took the cap off, put the water in it, screwed the cap back on, and it had a valve on it like on your tires on your car. So if you was the kid, you was the one that got to sit out there with a bicycle pump, and you pumped the air pressure into that tank. Now, you spend all evening pumping it up, you do dishes, and then the next morning when you get up, you went back out and you pumped it up because over the night, all your air pressure disappeared. So now you had no air pressure in the tank, so you had no water. Most of the campers back then had small wet baths in them. The electric part of it was kind of neat. All the light fixtures that was in the camper was 110 volt, and they was actually 110 volt bulb that you used inside of the house. It screwed in, and that was your lights when you was plugged into 110 volt. One of the mods that was done back in the day was to take the 110 volt lights and unhook them from the 110 volt and actually hook them to a 12 volt battery. And typically back then, the battery that you used was you went out and took the battery out of the Oldsmobile before you left the house to go camping, and you stuck it in a camper to run the lights. And the bulbs, you got screw-in bulbs that was actually 12 volt and screwed into the light fixtures. Now, when you was camping someplace with electric and you ran your 12 volt lights, then you took a battery charger and you actually hooked the battery charger from the 110 volt and you put it on the 12 volt battery to keep it charged up while you was camping for the weekend. Very few campers had 12 volts on them, and that was something that was done as a modification, and usually the people who had the campers did that modification.